Primetime, national TV, 3-0, ranked 11th in the country. Notre Dame Fighting Irish as Michigan comes to town. The head coach is Brian Kelly. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dan. Thanks for having me on.
Let me ask you about the trip to Ireland. Best thing that happened over there, aside from the outcome?
Getting through customs without having to wait 2 or 3 hours. I was actually concerned that we'd be jammed up in the airport for a long period of time because we've got so much to travel with. But went smooth, and I think the logistics of traveling over there can be overwhelming, but it went really smooth, which opens up my eyes to doing it again sometime.
Did you go to the Guinness brewery?
I did not. Many Notre Dame fans were over there. We took them to a pub-like atmosphere. The team where they had some Irish dancers and a little bit of Irish folk music. So they got a piece of it. It was enough for them.
How long should a coach be on the job before we give a true assessment of how the program is going?
I think it varies depending on what the circumstances are. Each and every program has different challenges in front of it.
What about you, though? When or should I already be able to say what kind of job I think you'll do or you've done?
Well, I think in year 3, I think you start to see, the direction and the development of the football program. And clearly when we got here, the biggest need was to shore up a defense that was not of championship caliber. So I think we're getting closer to that end, and into year 3, I think you should start to see the signs of that.
And I've always wondered, now we look at pro football and everybody's offensive-based, offensive-minded. In college football, if you're going to win a national championship or at least compete, is it more about your offense or your defense?
I think it's been proven that it's about your defense. If you look at some of the scoring games that LSU and Alabama have had, arguably the 2 best teams in the country over the last couple of years. So I think you start on defense, and that was the blueprint here, was to, my career has always been about selling tickets and putting, people in the stands and offenses that are exciting. And when I got here, I knew that we were going to have 81,000 for every home game no matter what. If we wanted to win football games, we had to build a defense.
Well, you did have a great offense in Cincinnati, and I understand that. Now at Notre Dame, you don't have to worry about being exciting as much as you just have to be successful. How would you rate your defense nationally?
It's a top 20 team, as it relates to defenses, and I think it's moving up the charts. We're still a little thin in the back end of our defense, which we'll address in this recruiting class. And then I think we have all the pieces, and we don't have any, built-in excuses to, why can't we play championship caliber defense? But I think once that's addressed after this recruiting year, I think we have all the pieces to be a top defense in the country.
And when you watch Denard Robinson and just his success against Notre Dame the last 2 times, what is different about your approach this year as opposed to the last 2?
Well, I still think he poses the same problems. He's an incredible runner of the football, but very competent in throwing the ball down the field. And where we got hurt were 6 plays for 260 yards, 6 big plays, and throwing the football. So, it's the classic case of if you load up and just are focused on stopping the run, he's more than capable of hurting you. We have to be a little bit more balanced. We have to change some things up on the back end, give him some different looks, but still maintain the focus of limiting the big plays that he can give you.
He's Brian Kelly, Notre Dame head coach. You got Michigan in primetime coming up on Saturday, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. I'm always curious about the confidence of a quarterback, and certainly in college. And that's the first thing that goes, their confidence. And you got, interchangeable quarterbacks here. How concerned are you of that confidence level of Golson and Reese, where you can take one out and put one in?
I don't believe it's that fluid, Dan. I think it's, Everett Golson's job, and it has been, from the very beginning. He's the starter. If there are times where we need to prop up a freshman quarterback with a veteran who started 16 games and, has won at USC, has played in big games at Michigan, I'll do that. But there's no change in my thought process as to where we are going offensively. It's with Everett Golson, and he's a freshman. He's got 4 years of eligibility. But if I have an asset like Tommy where I can fit him in where I think we need him, I'll do that. But, having said that, he's grown a lot. You know, he went on the road in a very tough environment at Michigan State and showed himself very well.
It has to be tough to suspend players. How tough was it to suspend good players when you know what has happened the last 2 seasons and you got a tough schedule? You got to win these games, but you have to take a stance. How tough was that for you?
I think it's always tough. I'm a teacher first. I'm not a disciplinarian first. I want to teach and educate, but you know, unfortunately, sometimes through that process, you have to draw a line and you have to be able to discipline as well. And it's never easy. I always look for reasons not to suspend. I'm not a guy that's going to suspend somebody just because I want to send a message. I want to teach the kids so they're better citizens later. And so, yeah, it's always difficult, but I don't know that it ever comes down to, well, he's a good player or he's a bad player. You know, you're looking at your entire roster, and you should be looking at it the same way.
How much input did you have in the ACC with football being excluded from joining it officially, even though you guys play an ACC schedule for the most part?
Well, I don't know that I had much impact on the overall direction, because this was a decision that, you know, benefited all sports, in particular, you know, our Olympic sports, and that they're going to be playing in a conference that, you know, has like universities and philosophy. So I think the only thing that I was consulted on is potential postseason bowl tie-ins with the ACC versus maybe some other conferences. So other than that, it was a plan that our president and athletic director were moving aggressively on over the last 4 or 5 months.
Did you want to join as a football program, or did you want to stay an independent?
No, my choice would be to stay independent, because it benefits us greatly, Dan, from a recruiting standpoint. We're able to recruit from the East Coast to the West Coast and keep that large footprint when it's, you know, a university that has some selective admissions, and you have to be able to fit into the environment here at Notre Dame. I would always vote for a larger footprint relative to recruiting.
Notre Dame doesn't resonate the way it used to, certainly when we were growing up. When you go out, you know, what do kids know about Notre Dame? Unlike what we knew when we could name the starting lineup and, you know, everything about Notre Dame. It just seemed it played nationally a lot bigger. Why doesn't it play bigger now?
Well, college football has changed dramatically over that period of time. There's so much more depth and talent. So many more schools are committed to playing national caliber type of schedules and programs, and so I just think there's so many more programs that are committed to that level. The brand has not suffered, in my estimation, at all relative to what they get if they come to Notre Dame. They've got a great tradition in football. People realize that in the recruiting process, and they know what kind of degree they're going to get. So I don't know that has changed much, other than the younger kids that we're recruiting. They don't know Joe Montana. They don't know Joe Theismann. They don't know those names. Heck, they think Dr. Lou is really a doctor, and they don't know that he coached at Notre Dame. So it's an educational process in that sense. But the Notre Dame brand is so strong that we're able to immediately gain a connection from that standpoint.
How important is this game Saturday night?
I think it's another step towards our football team understanding, you know, what it takes week in and week out with the kind of schedule we're going to play. It requires incredible attention and preparation. I think it's just another step for us in this process. Our guys are understanding how important it is, and it'll be my job to make sure that, they don't play tentative, but they go out and go play the game the way it's meant to be played.
You sound 3-0.
Well, I think the process for us has been difficult in some instances that we've learned from some of our mistakes, and including myself. I mean, the job at Notre Dame tends to distract you at times, and the focus has to be on why you're doing it, and that's coaching 18 to 21-year-olds. So I think we're all in a better place in understanding, what it is in front of us, and that is to develop 18 to 21-year-olds and execute as a football team on Saturdays.
Well, good luck. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Hey, Dan. Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right. Brian Kelly, Notre Dame head coach.